సార్ నన్ను హోస్ట్ చేయండి.
Yeah, I removed waiting. Pawan?
Host you, sir. Host you.
Cheers. పవన్ ఒకసారి ఎవరికి హోస్ట్ ఇవ్వాలో చెప్పేవా? హరీష్ సార్ కి ఇచ్చేనా?
గుడ్ మార్నింగ్. గుడ్ మార్నింగ్
సార్ హోస్ట్.
Harish Gopal host. Meeting is live on YouTube. Please go ahead.
Yeah.
హరీష్ సార్
వెయిటింగ్ రూమ్ రిమూవ్ చేయండి సార్.
తీసేసాను సార్, వెయిటింగ్ రూమ్ తీసేసాను.
Can you
వస్తా ఉన్నా సార్ అంటే
చూడండి, మీరు ఇంకా వేరే వాళ్ళని కో హోస్ట్ చేయండి హరీష్ సార్, అండ్ ఒకసారి అందరినీ మ్యూట్ చేసేసుకోండి. పవన్ కి ఒకసారి ఇస్తే ఏ ఐడిలో ఉన్నాడు పవన్, ఇప్పుడు పవన్ కి ఇస్తే మిగతా పవన్ చూసుకుంటాడు.
మనం సింధురా మేడం కో హోస్ట్ లో.
సార్ మీరు పార్టిసిపెంట్స్ ని మ్యూట్ చేయాలి ఫస్ట్. ఒకసారి పవన్ కి ఇవ్వండి, సెట్ అయిపోతుంది 2 minutes కి. పవన్ జస్ట్ ఐడెంటిఫై యువర్ సెల్ఫ్.
పవన్ కుమార్ చూడండి ఇక్కడ.
లేదు, హరీష్ సార్ కి ఇచ్చాను. హీ హాస్ టు ట్రాన్స్ఫర్ హోస్ట్ యు. హరీష్ సార్ మీరు డిఆర్ పవన్ కుమార్ అని హ్యాండ్ రైస్ చేశాడు, తనకి హోస్ట్ ఇచ్చేయండి. తను సెట్ చేసేసాక మళ్ళీ ట్రాన్స్ఫర్ చేస్తాడు. Now it is on YouTube. Everything is all set, Pawan.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going back. Bye.
Yeah.
Pawan sir is the host now.
Thank you, sir. I'm making Ajay sir involve కొన్ని settings తర్వాత నేను Ajay sir మీరు చేయండి.
I don't know idea because
can we mute all others? Mute all. I have muted all others. I've just welcome you all. Good afternoon. A warm welcome to you all for this Sunday 4th virtual F3 program. And we have very interesting topic today. Before I start, let me remind you that we are from Pediatric Academy of Telangana, hosting from Hyderabad. And we are part of a F3 group of Pediatric Academy of Telangana since past 2 years. Now we are growing every day. We have already finished 3 topics earlier. The first topic was financial planning by Dr. Indira Pawan. The second topic was by Dr. Ajay Kumar Gupta from Delhi on insurance. And the last Sunday, the last topic was by Dr. Sri Tirumala Kolondu sir from Tirunelveli, Tamil Nadu. He spoke on part 1 of mutual funds. And today we have Dr. Sindhura from Yashoda Super Specialty Hospitals of Hyderabad. She is a pediatrician, and she'll be talking on debt funds. Dr. Sindhura, I understand, is a WealthCon graduate, and she is a financial enthusiast, and she will take us through the journey of debt funds. Dear viewers, you know that debt funds are a type of financial instruments which has got a face value, which has got a interest fixed and a maturity value. How they are useful in comparison to other financial instruments, what are the characteristic features, who should invest in the debt funds, and I'm sure Dr. Sindhura will deal with this. I now invite Dr. Harish Gopal sir, who is our senior guide at WealthCon also, and is a very good financial enthusiast, to say few words. Your attention to Dr. Harish Gopal and our host, Dr. Pawan Kumar.
Yes, sir.
Over to Dr. Harish Gopal sir.
Yeah, good evening, sir. Thanks for the wonderful introduction. So we are starting this series of talks so that we can have some basics in finance and progressing to advanced topics. So today we'll be talking about debt funds because this is the one of the topics where we often neglect over our financial journey. We invest in real estate, we invest in equity, we invest in gold, but often we forget in debt funds. So that's the idea by why we started this debt funds. So today, Dr. Sindhura Madam, who is a consultant pediatrician from Yashoda Hospital, will be talking about debt funds, why we should invest in debt funds, what is the current scenario, because there's a lot of noise regarding this indexation benefit being removed in debt funds, and whether fixed deposits are now attractive to debt funds or whether these guarantee schemes are now good for debt funds, and what is the role of debt funds in the present scenario. So I'll give this mic, I hand over this mic to Dr. Sindhura Madam for further journey in debt funds. Thank you.
Good
Madam,
afternoon,
I can share.
Yeah, am I audible, sir?
Yes, madam, sure.
So good afternoon, everyone. I'm Dr. Sindhura. I'm Dr. Harish Gopal sir's student from WealthCon. So today I'll be going. We'll be going through the debt funds. So I'll start sharing my screen. Sorry, sir, I'm getting screen sharing has failed to start. Sir, I'm unable to share my screen, sir. Am I made the screen sharing has failed to start? Please try again.
Yeah, you please switch off everything, Dr. Sindhura, and then again start sharing the screen after opening. Don't share the open PPT. You close the PPT and then share again.
Yes,
Madam, you are already co-host. You can do that. Please do it again.
yes.
You click on the share screen green button in the bottom. Here you can see share the PowerPoint. Can you see the share screen in green color?
Yes, sir. I can see that, sir.
Please press it, madam.
Sir, after pressing, I am getting screen sharing has failed to start. Please try again later. Error code 0. Hari, sir, I will send you the PPT.
Yes, madam. You send, madam.
I'll keep it in the group or I'm getting a error code, sir. Can you share me your mail ID, sir? On WhatsApp.
Sir, ma'am, I'll make host. Sir, I'll make you host, ma'am. Just try once after that.
Okay, sir.
I made you host, ma'am. Just check it once.
Yes, sir. I'm trying. I'm getting the same error codes.
Okay, okay. Ask sir to share them. So make me host, ma'am, then.
Yes.
Maybe computer error is there. Yeah. Sorry, participants, for the technical issues.
See God in the minute.
Madam, I've shared you the email ID. Can you share?
You have shared me, sir. Okay. I should make Harish Gopal.
Meanwhile, Ajay sir, can you? Ajay sir, can you meanwhile, since Hari sir and Sindhura ma'am is setting up the things, meanwhile, can you share?
You send,
madam.
WhatsApp
just mute everybody, Dr. Pawan, so that I will just give a brief introduction of the debt instrument funds by the time we technically start sharing the screen. As I was telling you all, friends, that debt instruments have a face value and they have a interest rate fixed prior to your investment, and they have a tenure or a maturity period fixed. And they are always available usually at par. That means when you buy it in the market, after the issue is over, after the issue is closed, if it is sold at the same price as the face value, it is known as at par. And they run for years. We all know that debts funds are usually in a very less risk and very safe instrument for mostly for your protection of your wealth. And many seniors like me prefer to invest in debt funds because we don't want to lose our corpus at the old age, and without going actually for the running after the wealth creation or multiplication. So a debt fund, definitely I would advise that the seniors should have some percentage in their corpus, and why they should be there, and how these debt funds, not only you can invest, but also sometimes you can try and do like trade the debt funds, and they are freely available in a liquidity form in the stock exchange in the form of bonds, certificates, or commercial papers. The other debt funds which are non-tradable, which we know that are PPF, fixed deposit, SSY, and postal deposits. These are some of the other debt funds. So Dr. Sindhura definitely will be trying to tell us the total gamut of the debt funds. But please remember, friends, that debt fund is an essential part of our investment portfolio as we become seniors, as we grow, because there is a lot of safety. Most of the times, if they are in government securities or in the area done by state government or a central government, these are safe. And though they earn very less income compared to other financial instruments, but then that is a safety of our corpus over a period of time, and probably a sort of a cushion for your retirement, post-retirement life. So if we are ready, I will ask Dr. Sindhura and Dr. Harish Gopal. Dr. Harish Gopal, sir, are you ready?
No, sir, still sharing is going on. 1 minute, sir. Just 2 minutes.
Okay. There are certain formulas by which we value today's debt fund for the future value of the debt fund when we add the number of years taken into consideration as a factor with the interest rate which it gives us, so that you will know the future principal which you will get in your hand. More or less like a fixed deposit, but definitely debt funds value can also differ if it is in demand a lot by the buyers in the market. So, other words, it becomes a tradable instrument also. So, let's see the types of debt funds which we are exposed to and what are the choices we are having for us to invest, and at least have some amount of cushion for a safety of the corpus. I know there are our viewers are there, our participants are there who are well versed and who are knowledgeable, and they actually day in and day out swear and take oath on equity investment. Equity is also a part. This is the 4 pillar, as Dr. Pawan has rightly mentioned in one of the poster. Apart from gold, apart from equity, apart from currency, and also real estate, debt funds are also a part and parcel of our portfolio. You can type some of the questions if you have in the chat box. If possible, we will try and answer them at the end of the session, or some of our admins who are also there in the participate today in the Zoom meeting, they will be able to answer in the WhatsApp group.
So anyone who has not joined financial fitness group yet, there are few seats left. It's already full with 1016 participants. So anyone who has joined and shared the chat can join.
So we have got a WhatsApp group created by PATS secretary and the president 2 years back, and it's been continuing this time also. Almost we'll finish in 24th, I think 2 years anniversary. As I was telling you last time, we'll try to archive the material which are important in our WhatsApp group to make a soft copy and share with all of us. And we have already got 4 WhatsApp groups, group 1, group 2, group 3 with an announcement group. There is an admin and faculty group also. So if it is full, we will try to accommodate in the group 2 or group 3 also, and all the matters and material will be shared in all the groups. I would rather request all the participants to restrict to a theme for a week. You know, what is happening is some of my participants are giving me feedback that too much of confusion, too much of random discussion is happening, and too much of tangential topics are going on, so that the following becomes difficult. Even though we have now restricted, as Dr. Harish Gopal sir as admin has mentioned, 2 o'clock every day he'll open, and then he'll try and close it by evening after a few hours, and Sunday is keeping it open for discussion, 2-way postings. But still, I think try and see that the same topic is discussed so that you absorb the material properly from the experts or people who are knowledgeable. Do the returns from debt funds beat the inflation? I don't think so, but yes, it is safe and risk. Safety, risk and return are interlinked. So if you have a safe or a risk-free, returns may be less. CRISIL ratings, any precautions to take before investing in debt funds? Government securities, I don't think so. You have to take any second thoughts, my personal opinion. But if there are company debts, yes, CRISIL rating do matter. But as we have already spoken earlier, you must invest in a corporate which has got a profitable, large market share, good dividend giving, good management company. Debt funds will be always good. So apart from the CRISIL, there are a lot of controversies about rating agencies themselves also. So they are not the gospel truth that CRISIL is AAA plus, that debt is good. We all know what happened in America. Crisis, debt fund crisis. It crashed next day, and one day before, the rating agencies gave that debt fund as AAA plus. So I don't think so. Only CRISIL rating will be the only precaution to invest in the debt fund. At least government securities, if you want to play safe, that's one of the area which you can invest. WealthCon is a lot of participants here are WealthCon graduates and scholars, guides and co-guides in this group. You can join by joining the Telegram, and Dr. Harish Gopal will guide you further. The coordinator and admin of WealthCon is Natasha Madam, Dr. Natasha. You can directly contact her and she will be letting you in and know how the procedure to join. Only doctors are allowed to join there, and most of them are postgraduates. I'm happy to pre-announce that our admin, Dr. Satish Vadepalli from Visakhapatnam, who is a MBA in finance from Andhra University, who is a pediatrician and neonatologist and a secretary, earlier secretary of Indian Academy of Pediatrics, Visakhapatnam city branch. has successfully finished writing a book on monetary management, macro and microeconomics of our country, along with his another colleague. And it is about to be a pre-launch publication will be there very shortly, published by Himalayan publishers. And we congratulate him and we thank him for the wonderful contribution which he is doing for our PATS group for F3. And he is one of our admin, and he is known for his expert analytical thinking. And he is also a qualified research analyst by SEBI. So I congratulate on behalf of F3 about the book which Dr. Satish has published. I think we are now technically sharing our screen by Dr. Sindhura. So I'll hand over the mic to Dr. Sindhura and Dr. Harish Gopal to further take over. Thank you very much.
Sindhura madam, can you start?
Sir, hello.
Madam, start, madam.
You
madam.
have shared, sir.
I'm shared, madam.
You have shared the
screen,
screen,
you can
sir.
see the screen.
The PowerPoint is ready. You start.
I can't see the screen, sir.
You can't
I'm
see.
seeing your name. Yeah, I'm seeing only your name on the screen.
Madam, we are seeing the PPT shared by Sari sir. You can start talking.
I'll just speak. I'll start speaking,
Yeah.
sir. I can't see the screen actually.
Okay, this is the first slide titled Debt Funds, madam. You can see in your own laptop and then talk, madam. Dr. Harish sir will.
Madam, otherwise you see your PowerPoint, then you tell.
Yes, sir. That will be fine, sir. I'll open my PowerPoint and I am opening my PowerPoint.
Your video is also not open, Dr. Sindhu.
Sir, I don't know. It was seen till now.
You can join through mobile also, ma'am. That will be better, I think.
Madam,
Sir,
you log
I
out.
opened
you
my
log out by laptop and you log in by mobile.
Sir, I have opened my PPT, sir. I'll continue. Is it okay?
Yes.
Yes, madam.
Yeah.
I have opened my PPT in my mobile. So sorry everyone.
You join through mobile also. Yeah, join through mobile.
Yeah. So sorry everyone for the technical glitch. It has happened. So today I'm going to speak about the debt funds. So next slide. What is a debt fund? So a debt fund is a type of a mutual fund scheme that invests in fixed income securities. Gautam, please go out, Gautam. So a debt fund is a mutual fund scheme that invests in fixed income instruments such as corporate and government bonds, corporate and debt securities, and money market instruments, so that offer capital appreciation. Debt funds are also known as income funds or bond funds. So what exactly is a bond? So as we know now that debt funds is investing in bonds. So what are bonds? A bond is like a certificate of deposit that is issued by the borrower to the lender. It's just like a fixed deposit in a bank. So when you make an FD with a bank, what you're doing is basically you're lending money to the bank and you earn interest on it. Similarly, bonds also does the same thing. You can also buy directly bonds from the RBI Retail Direct portal, which is launched in November 2021 by the government securities. But the difference between these two, debt funds and you directly purchasing the bonds from the RBI website, is that the debt funds are able to invest in many types of bonds that are not available to individuals. That's the main difference. So So what are the debt fund investments? Invest in fixed income instruments such as corporate bonds, government bonds, corporate debt securities, and money security markets. These are released by the government, RBI, state government, and the municipalities, and companies including PSUs, private, and banks also can give the bonds. So now coming to the next slide. I don't know what slide. Why would bond price rise or fall? There can be many reasons why would bond price rise or fall, but the main reason is change in the interest rate, or even the expectation of the change in the interest rate can also cause bond price to rise or fall. For example, suppose there's a bond that pays out interest at a rate of 9% per year. Then the interest rate, when the interest rate in the economic falls and the newer bonds start getting at a 8%, suppose the interest, you have taken the bond at 9% and now the interest rate has fallen to 8%. So the old bond will be much more worth than the new bond. So for the given amount of money invested, you can earn more. Its price would now rise. So mutual fund that holds it will find holdings which are worth more and make additional profits by selling this bond. The same thing can happen in reverse. That is, when the interest rate falls, the bond price increases. Similarly, when the interest rate rises, the bond price decreases. So how does a debt fund earn? So now we have known what is a debt fund. Debt funds are the funds which invest in majorly in the bonds and other government securities. So what next we have learned what exactly is a bond. Then now we know how debt funds earn. Debt funds earn either by interest. So the bonds give us regular, it's like the bonds give us regular fixed amount of interest. So these debt funds invest in debt instruments such as government and corporate bonds at a certain price. Whenever the price increases, they sell them, thereby making the profit. The difference between the cost and sale price accounts for increase in the net asset value, that is, increase in the value of the debt fund. And debt fund also, that is first point by which the debt funds receive, like how the appreciation happens. The secondly, debt funds also receive periodic interest from the underlying debt instruments in which they invest. So debt funds that earn regular interest from the fixed income instruments during the fixed tenure. This is similar to bank fixed deposits. So debt funds earn one by interest payment from the bond holdings, which is similar to the fixed deposits, and also debt funds earn by appreciation, price appreciation. So how do we know? The financial health of these debt funds, these bonds, is determined by a third party agency, which is CRISIL, ICRA, CARE, India Rating, BRIC. These are the agencies which determine the rating. So usually these are rated as AAA, AA, A, BBB, BB, C, and D. As a retail investor, you should always know that you should invest in a debt fund which has a AAA. That is the most important thing. As I think most of you know what has happened in April 2020, the Franklin's fiasco, what we call Franklin Templeton's debt fund fiasco. So what exactly happened in April? What happened is Franklin Company has announced 6 debt funds from April from 2018 to 2020. Thereby, around 500 crores of investment from the retailers in the debt funds were taken. In 2020, due to COVID, the Franklin has released a statement. Gautam, please go out. Franklin has released a statement that it can no more function, the debt fund is in bankruptcy. The matter was taken to the court of law, wherein SEBI has stepped in, and SEBI has set up a committee which was looking into as to why the Franklin Fund has gone into bankruptcy. SEBI has appointed SBI to look into this matter. So once the investigation was done, they were able to see that although Franklin has shown 6 different funds, 6 different debt funds, but all the funds were investing in bonds which were similar, unlisted, and most of them were having a rating of B and C. So SBI took into the matter, and it has disbursed the amount to all the retail investors who have invested in the Franklin company, debt fund company as such. But as a retail investor, we should be aware that we should always invest in a rating of AAA and nothing less than that. So coming to who should invest in debt funds. So debt funds are ideal for investors who want regular income, but they don't want to take much risk. Because debt funds are less volatile, they are less risky when compared to the equity funds. So if you have been saving in a traditional fixed income products like term deposits, and you're looking for steady returns with low volatility, debt mutual fund could be a better option because they help you achieve your financial goals in a more tax efficient manner, and therefore they earn better returns. And also investors who want to purchase equity in bearish market. So there will be some sort of investors who wait for an opportunity for the market to crash, wherein they invest in stocks at a very lower price. So when waiting through this, instead of parking the money in your broker's account, or instead of parking it in your savings account, it's always better to park the amount in a debt fund. So systemic transfer plan, STP, you can do from the debt to equity to minimize the average cost of the buying. And also investors who want to park funds for a short term, which we'll be discussing in the later, it's ideal for those investors also. So how debt funds are different from other mutual funds? Debt funds are not entirely different from other mutual fund schemes. However, the debt funds are safe when compared to other mutual funds. So because they have safety which is much more higher to equity mutual funds. For example, whenever the market falls, the NAV, net asset value of your equity funds falls sharply. Whereas in case of debt fund, the fall is not as sharp as the equity fund. Saying this, you have to remember that debt fund can give you only moderate returns. If you want to maximize your returns, it is always the equity. So higher the returns, higher is the risk taken. Lower the returns, lower is the risk taken. So it depends on the individual person and his risk-taking appetite to decide onto what category of investment you want to invest upon. So coming to why invest in debt fund? Firstly, debt funds give you a fixed income. So debt funds invest in fixed income, that is bonds. So investing in the fixed income, you'll be receiving interest at a regular interval. So it can be paid either monthly, quarterly, semi-annually, or annually. Because of this, debt funds are very stable compared to the equity funds. Next, coming to diversification. Investing, when we are investing, we have to calculate the risk and accordingly we have to invest. We can't put all our eggs in one basket. Suppose you have some 5 lakhs with you, and putting all the money in the equity can be very risky, because whenever the market crashes, automatically all your hard-earned money is going to become very less. So in order to reduce this risk, you have to diversify your portfolio. That is GRED, which we have already discussed in the WhatsApp group, gold, real estate, equity, and debt funds. So you have to diversify the portfolio. Next is convenience. as I told you, you can buy the, so why debt funds? Why can't we go directly through the RBI portal and buy the bonds there itself? To go to the RBI portal and buy, firstly, all the bonds won't be available in the RBI portal. Secondly, it's a very hassle. It takes time for you to understand and all. So debt funds are for the convenience. Next comes the liquidity. Liquidity is the number of buyers or sellers in the market, whichever market it is, debt market or bond market. Whenever there is a good liquidity, you can easily buy or sell the underlying asset. So debt funds, you can exit your investment whenever you want and receive the money within 2 to 3 days. Unlike remaining thing where you don't have any troublesome process to withdraw the amount which you have put in the debt funds. Next, the returns what you get from the debt funds are steady, but here you have to remember the returns are always moderate returns. Do not expect a high returns from a debt fund, but the returns are always steady because they invest in a fixed income securities. They are stable. However, the yield will be lower when compared to other equity related mutual funds. Then comes the debt funds give you a better return compared to the peers. Like
No, madam. Sindhura, madam. Sindhura, madam, your voice is not audible.
I think there is a break in link, Dr. Harish.
So what link?
Her connection to the Zoom. So, if you don't mind, can you comment till now what she has covered, Dr. Harish?
I'm just, madam, your sir, as I already told by madam, that see better returns compared to peers is what she means is the fixed income deposits. Okay. As right now the interest rates are more, so we are getting a better high interest compared to what we're getting now. But this, if you see the interest rate cycle, this interest rates will not be high for a long period of time. So ultimately they'll come down one point of the day. Okay. And second thing is that though this tax efficiency, right now there is a debate about this tax efficiency because the indexation benefit is gone down. But ultimately we need to know that fixed deposits or any other things, there is a 10% flat rate of tax. And in debt funds, we are using it for diversification. And many people will not take out debt. Many people will not keep the debt funds for more than 3 years. Usually it is for a short period of time. And if it is for a long period of time, then they will not take it out. Here the tax efficacy comes only when you're taking the debt fund out. So if it's a short-term goal, we don't, if you are investing in a liquid fund or a liquid base, then there's no point in knowing the tax because it will be added to your tax slab. If you are keeping for a very long time, then you will not redeem it itself. So right now the government has removed this indexation benefit, which we'll see later.
Dr. Hari, there is a question which asks, can we do SIP from debt fund to equity fund of the same fund house and carry entry and exit load?
Yes, yes, sir. This is what this slide tells you. Using debt funds for STP and SWP, we call that is a systemic transfer plan. So with the debt fund, suppose you invest 10 lakhs in a debt fund in the same, it should be the same mutual fund house. For example, I'm taking just a name, it's not a recommendation. Suppose I have an Axis liquid fund, 10 lakhs. I want to invest in a Axis large cap fund. So from there, I'll give you a standing instruction to do a systemic transfer plan of 1 lakh every month. Okay. So that it keeps on investing. Instead of having entire 10 lakhs in my savings account, this 10 lakhs, if it is there in the debt funds, it will give around 4 to 5% of interest rate in the liquid fund. And from there, it will be transferring systematically to the equity market, to whichever scheme you choose. So that you learn in both the side of the coin. Because many people will be worried about only the tax component. So you can use this as an efficient mechanism to park all your funds from the savings account in a liquid fund and from there to the equity market. When a market is in Zoom, you can take out from the equity market and put it in the debt fund. So you can do this rebalancing yourself so that most of the times you are in profit in both the sides of the coin. Okay. So this debt funds to equity market is known as systemic transfer plan. And when from the equity market to the debt funds, when you withdraw money, when suppose you are in lot of profits, you want to book the profits. So from that profit can be put it to the debt funds, and that is known as systemic withdrawal plan, where you can withdraw, given instruction that you transfer 1 lakh from the equity market to the debt fund. So like this, you can keep on booking your profits regularly. And whenever there is a crash or a correction in the stock market, you can transfer funds from the debt funds to the equity market, either lump sum or to the STP. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is known as STP and SWP. Both are available to all mutual fund houses in all the mutual funds. Okay.
Yeah. I think it's a very good facility, sir.
Yes, it is just they do it automatically on your behalf so that you don't have to do anything. Sindhu, madam, you joined, no?
Yes, sir. I have joined through mobile, sir.
Yeah.
Yes,
Sorry.
madam. Please continue, madam.
So we can use the debt funds for You have gone to the debt funds for STP and SWP, as Hari sir has already discussed, systemic transfer plan, wherein from debt funds we can shift our debt amount to the equity market along with growth on your principal amount, which we'll be discussing later in detail. Next is the systemic withdrawal plan, wherein you can redeem units of pre-specified amount at a specific interval. This is suitable for the investors who desire periodic income. Next slide. So we can use debt funds for specific goals like child's education, retirement, buying house. So how do we do that? So choosing the funds for child's education. So always remember, whenever your child is very young age, it's always the equity. Equity gives you higher returns on a long term. But when your goal is less than 3 years, suppose your child is in 10th standard and you have accumulated the funds for his higher studies. So when less than 3 years, when your child is in 10th standard, you need to de-risk your portfolio and shift from equity to debt to secure your gains. Because if you stay invested in equity, suddenly something happens like how the COVID crash has happened or something else happens. So all your accumulated amount for your child's future will be very less.
So 3 years prior to your goal, you have to de-risk your portfolio and gradually shift your amount from the equity to the debt funds. Second is the retirement portfolio. Whenever you are 10 years away from your retirement, use de-risking strategy and you wait for an opportunity to migrate your money from the equity, which is volatile, to a safer debt funds. By the time you are 1 to 2 years away from retirement, a large portion should have been moved from your equity into the debt funds. Third is you can use the debt fund to purchase a house. So if you are planning to buy a house in 2 to 3 years, debt funds are the best option. What you do is you start creating a saving plan for your down payment. Get an idea of the purchase price and the EMI payment that you can afford. Estimate what you will need for the margin money, which is usually 20% of the home price. Thereafter, you calculate how much you have to save every month and put it in the debt funds till you reach your goal, where you can redeem and pay the down payment and purchase the home accordingly. Next, there are coming to the different types of debt funds. These debt funds are mainly categorized based on the maturity. Maturity is the time period after which the borrower will give back the principal amount to the lender. So first is the liquid fund. These are the low duration funds. The portfolio usually maturity has a less than 91 days. It's good alternative to saving bank account and it potentially offers higher returns. We'll speak about the returns in the later part. So coming to ultra short-term funds, bond funds, these are also low duration funds, but the maturity is less than 1 year. So it's ideal for parking short-term surplus money. Also, it offers a better returns when compared to the liquid funds. Short-term income funds, these are the medium duration funds. The portfolio maturity usually ranges from 1 to 3 years. So investors with a time horizon greater than 1 year can benefit from these funds. In the present scenario, in the raising interest rate scenario, this is the best thing. Fixed maturity plans, these are the passively managed close-ended funds wherein the investments are held till maturity. So it's an alternative to the fixed deposit, but with the investment horizon of over 3 years. Next slide. Next comes the long-term income funds. These are medium to long duration funds with a portfolio maturity between 3 to 10 years. So it's suitable for investors with a longer investment horizon. These funds benefit when the interest rate falls. As we have discussed earlier, whenever the interest rate falls, the bond rate increases. So these funds benefit when the interest rate falls. These are inversely related. Next comes the gilt funds. Gilt funds are the medium to long duration funds with a portfolio maturity between 3 to 20 years, and they have a negligible credit risk. Risk of debt funds will be dealt later, but as of now, we can remember that you have two types of risk in debt funds. One is the interest-related risk, which we have already discussed. Whenever the interest rate or the repo rate by the RBI increases, the bond price decreases. The other is the credit risk. So credit risk is nothing but whenever from whosoever we have taken the bonds, suppose they stop giving us the fixed interest or they have been bankrupted. That's the risk associated with them. So that is called the credit risk. So gilt funds doesn't have the credit risk because these are usually the government bonds and they are sovereign bonds. So the gilt portfolio of these funds doesn't carry any credit risk, so only interest rate risk will be there, and these funds benefit the most in a falling interest rate environment. Other type of debt fund is the monthly income plan. This is a medium to long duration fund with exposure of less than 30% to equity. So MIP, monthly income plan, has equity as well as the debt fund with equity less than 30% exposure and the remaining to the debt fund. So this is ideal for the investors who are looking for returns better than the traditional debt instruments and doesn't want to get exposed to equity also having higher risk. Next is the capital protection oriented funds. So these follow an investment structure which seeks to protect the initial investment from capital erosion. So they are more concerned regarding the protection of your capital. So these type of schemes offer protection of the capital, and these doesn't provide you with any guaranteed returns. CPFs have a small equity component which gives a few investors who doesn't want to take a risk an opportunity to participate in the equity market without worrying about my principal amount would be decreased or not, because this is going to protect your principal amount. Next is the dynamic bond funds. These are actively managed by reducing the portfolio maturity in rising interest rate environment and increasing portfolio maturity in a falling interest rate environment. So these are ideal for investors who may find it difficult to judge the interest rate movement. So all of us may not be continuously knowing how the interest rates are going to move. So dynamic bond funds, these are best for people who have no knowledge about how to find the rate change in the interest rates. So these funds help investors minimize interest rate risk, and they're flexible to alter portfolio maturity according to the interest rate scenario. So credit opportunity funds, these funds purchase bonds in lower rated bonds to generate higher rates or interest. So whenever the bond is at the lower rate, they buy, and whenever it is at the higher rate, they sell it. So this is suitable only for the investors with a profile to take high risk. As investing down the rate spectrum, as we have already discussed, AAA is the one which is most desirable. So as you go down, just like what has happened in the Franklin debt fund, the similar thing can happen. So credit opportunity funds are risky when compared to the other types of the debt funds. So next, let us know few of the terminologies related to the debt funds. Let us I'll walk through one by one. So first is the yield to maturity. Yield to maturity means the return on your investment if you buy the instrument at its current price and hold it till maturity. It is nothing but you are buying the instrument, that is a debt fund, at a current market price, and you are holding it till the maturity. So whatever return you get on that investment, that is known as the yield to maturity. For example, if the face value is 1,000, suppose the bond's original value is ₹1,000, coupon rate is nothing but the interest rate. That is the interest 6% here. And time to maturity, supposedly if it is 10 years, the original value is 1,000, the interest rate obliged is 6%, the time to maturity is 10 years, but the present market price of the given bond is 900. So yield to maturity is by the given formula, which is annual interest plus face value minus price by maturity. This is a complex formula. So when you substitute everything, you can see that 7.4%. So the given bond with a face value of 1,000 rupees, which is at the present market value of 900 rupees, at the time of maturity, after 10 years, with a coupon rate, which is the interest rate of 6%, is going to yield you 7.4%. Supposedly, if we change the market price to 600, then the yield to maturity increases. So YTM will change if there is a change in interest rate, credit rating, and duration. So whatever although they say that interest rate is 6%, at the end of the tenure, at the end of the maturity, whatever you get, the amount will depend upon the rate of interest change, credit rating, as well as the duration, how long you have been in the given fund. Next comes the average maturity. So average maturity, Gautam found that it should. Average maturity, it is a time period after which the money is returned back to the debt holders. Each mutual fund will invest in different bonds. The different bonds will have different maturity. So average of all these together forms the average maturity. So average maturity indicates mutual funds sensitivity to the interest rate change. So higher the average maturity, higher is the sensitivity to rate changes. So funds having a lower average maturity are ideal for short-term holdings because as they are very well protected from the fluctuating interest rate movements because the time period is the short-term period. But if you hold them for more than the average maturity, you may not get the optimal results. So the higher the average maturity, the higher is the uncertainty in the short term. So which is what you'll have greater volatility. Means you will not, with higher maturity, if you're opting for a higher maturity, for a short term period, you are not going to get good results. Similarly, if you opt for a lower average maturity, the certainty is good, means uncertainty is very less and the volatility is very less, but the what you get, the outcome, the profit what you get is also very less. Simple. If you take higher risk, you will get higher profit, but with a higher risk. This has to be kept in mind. If you can see the chart below, overnight index fund, average maturity is 0 because it is an overnight fund. So interest rate sensitivity is very low. That means there won't be much fluctuations in the losses. You won't be getting much losses and you'll be getting a stable profit out of it. Similarly, as the average maturity increases, go to the long-term debt index, which has an average maturity index of 14.2, the interest rate sensitivity is very, very high. So as the average maturity increases, the uncertainty increases and the interest rate sensitivity will be very high. The next one is the maculate duration. This is nothing but the time taken to repay the principal amount from the internal cash flow generated by the bond. Nothing like if you go through the example, you will understand. Suppose the price of the bond is 1,000 rupees. The coupon, what interest you earn from that bond is 80 rupees per year. And suppose the maturity of the bond is 15 years. So here to get the 1,000 rupees by interest alone will take 12.5 years. So the time taken to repay the principal from the internal cash flow generated by the interest by the bond is the maculate duration. There's a lengthy formula for this, but let us remember a bond with a higher maculate duration is more sensitive to interest rate changes. So a bond with a lower maculate duration will have less sensitive to interest rate changes, and accordingly you will have a less volatile out returns. Next term is the modified duration. So it is nothing but measure of how much the price of a bond changes because of change in the yield to maturity or the interest. Suppose the modified duration is 5 years and the interest rate decreases by 1%. As we know, as the interest rate decreases, the bond price increases. So if the modified duration is 5 years, if the interest rate decreases by 1%, then the bond price increases by 5%. So investors with low risk appetite opt for funds with low modified duration. Even the fund managers shuffle the bond papers whenever they expect the interest rate to raise or fall according to the modified duration. So how do we know the next year returns? So if the modified duration of a given fund is 6 years and yield to maturity is 8% and expense ratio is 1%, so expectation, what we are expecting is in the next few months, the interest rate will be reduced by 0.5%. Then using this formula, you can expect the return to 10%. If you substitute YTM plus internal rate, all these things, if you substitute the given above things, you will get a return of 10%. Supposingly, if the interest rate increases by 0.5% using the same formula, but instead of YTM plus, you have to subtract the interest change and all, you'll be getting around only 4% returns. So Why is it important to match your investment horizon with that of that of that of the scheme? As we have already known, if you are investing in a short term, the uncertainty, if the maturity, average maturity is short term. For a short term, if you are going for a low average maturity, automatically your returns are fixed and you will get less volatile returns. But suppose you are going for a average maturity high for a long term thing, then the returns what you are going to get are very volatile. So where can you find all this average maturity, yield to maturity, McCoy ratio, and all these ratios? So CRISIL publishes these data monthly once for debt funds, and you can also go through monthly data from all the fund houses. So how to pick a mutual fund? First of all, the most important thing is the investor discipline. Quantify. Everyone should know what is our risk appetite. And based on our risk appetite and based on our investment time horizon, when we need the money back, is it for our child's education or is it for our retirement plan? So based on the investment horizon and based on the risk appetite, we should know what it is. Then we have to choose a fund based on risk and never on return. Never look at the return of a debt fund to invest. Always choose a fund based on your risk appetite and be patient, stick to your time horizon. So there is a characteristic of the debt market. The debt market always rewards discipline, and losses and gains are inextricably linked. When we understand this, never always debt funds are not going to be on the higher side of the market. As we know, when the interest rate rises, the debt funds are going to fall because the bond price falls. Similarly, when the interest rate falls, the bond price increases. So losses and gains are always inextricably linked. And loss of what you have to remember is loss of principal over longer period is extremely unlikely in debt funds. Suppose you have chosen a fund with a with good average maturity, with a good yield to maturity, with McCoy's ratio, everything keeping in mind, and a AAA bond you have chosen, then the erosion of your principal amount is very less likely. Next thing, take your investment seriously. So what does that mean? Choose a fund with care and with an investment horizon in your mind. So if you want to invest for only few days, choose a liquid fund. If you want to invest for few weeks, go for short-term funds like general debt funds or gilt funds. And if you want to invest for few months, then go for income funds or gilt long-term funds. So how to pick the right debt fund? First thing, check average maturity period of your fund's portfolio. So the lower the average maturity period, the lower is the fund's volatility and lower are the returns. On the other hand, a fund with a long maturity period is likely to be more volatile. But remember, the returns are going to be better. So always remember, always whenever you are investing in a debt fund, look at the average maturity of the fund. The lower the average maturity, for the shorter the duration of period of time, is better to invest. Second thing, look at the liquidity of your fund's portfolio. So a large percentage of the corporate debts in the portfolio, they stay stable for the short term. Suppose if the fund has some redemption pressure, suppose some, as we have seen in Franklin Fund and other funds, wherein redemption pressure is there and they have to sell the securities at a discount at a lower rate, then the NAV of the fund also will be low. So always opt for a fund which has high liquidity, means which has high sellers as well as high buyer ratio. Third, avoid fund with small corpuses. Don't go back of small funds which promise you higher returns. Remember, debt funds are never for returns, higher returns. Debt funds are to protect your principal amount. Debt funds are to protect whatever you have gained from the equity or whatever you have gained. To protect the initial principal, debt funds are more important. Never look for the uh, return on your uh, higher returns on your debt fund. So avoid funds with small corpuses, because some funds they don't disclose the where all they are investing. So if you invest in such, and unfortunately something happens like what has happened to the Franklin debt fund, all your hard-earned money will be lost. Fourth, look at the modified duration. As we have discussed previously, what is a modified duration? So the best tool to capture the interest rate sensitivity of a debt fund is a modified duration. As we have discussed, it will tell us how much the price of the bond will move if the interest rate moves up or down by 1%. So what happens? The greater the modified duration, the greater will be the impact of an interest rate change. So so you should have, so first thing is you have to know what is the average maturity. Second is you have to go for a good liquid fund. Don't go for small corpuses which promises higher returns. Go modified duration, you have to have an idea how much the fund is going to change with 1% or increase or decrease in the interest rate, and also understand how the interest rate, credit rating, and liquidity will affect your debt funds. There is a riskometer which is provided by the SEBI. It is SEBI regulated, which is very easy to look. Each and every mutual fund will be having a on their booklet or what on their thing. They'll be having a riskometer, which will be easily we can understand whether it is high risk, low risk, or moderate risk. So it is easy to look and understand. It takes into account the credit risk, interest risk, as well as the liquidity risk. So goal-based, as we have discussed, what are debt funds, what are bonds precisely, and what are the terminologies in the debt funds, and how and what are the different types of debt funds, and how to choose a debt fund. So this is a goal-based investing in the debt mutual fund. On your x-axis, you have the risk, which ranges from low risk to high risk. And on your y-axis, you have the return, which is low to high return. Supposingly, you have to, you need the money in few days or even few months, like emergency fund. Everyone should have at least a minimum of 6 months of their monthly expenses as the emergency fund, and only then they should start thinking about investment. Without an emergency fund, never go for a emergency fund, health insurance, term insurance. Only then comes the investment part, the debt funds, equity, whatever it is. So you can park your emergency fund, household expenses, and just a simple cash parking instead of savings account. You can park in the overnight fund or liquid fund, which has a low return as well as the risk is very low. If the investment horizon is between 3 months to 1 year, just for buying household items, electronics, furniture, etc., you can use ultra short duration, low duration, and money market funds. If your horizon is between 1 to 3 years, like in vacation, or you want to rebalance from equity, you want to do STP to the debt funds and all, park in short duration. If it is between 3 to 5 years, like in buying a house or a vehicle or for higher studies of your children, you park the amount in the medium duration and mid to long duration. And 5+ years, which is planning for the retirement and all, you purchase gilt funds and long duration funds. As you can see, as you go from the overnight to long duration funds, the risk is increasing as well as the returns are also increasing. So higher the risk, higher is the return. Just like how the Harshad Mehta story, they so risk hai to is hai. Similarly, if you take higher risk, you will have higher return. If you take lower risk, you will have lower return. But always choose a fund or your investment portfolio according to your risk appetite. So what are the returns of the debt market? Debt market returns usually range between 5% to 7%. It depends upon which cycle of the interest rate you are. If the interest rate is high, the debt market returns will be low. If the interest rate is low, the debt market return will be high. Then what are the risks associated with the debt market? One is the credit risk and other is the interest rate risk. As we have discussed interest rate risk just now, credit risk is nothing but whenever the company is not able to pay the interest, or whenever the company is not able to pay you the principal amount, whenever the company has bankrupted, that is the credit risk. So what are the myths? Coming to the myths associated with debt funds. First myth is debt mutual funds are as risky as equity. No, because debt mutual funds, as we have already read a lot about it by now, heard a lot about it by now. So mutual funds invest in fixed income instruments which have less risk when compared to equity, because here you are having a contract, you are having a bond whereby they are obliged to pay a certain rate of interest and the principal on maturity of the instrument. Suppose the management of the company has no such obligations, like in how if you invest in equity, the company doesn't have any obligation to pay you. If it has has made more profit, it will pay you dividends. But as such, the management doesn't owe what you call, it's not obliged to pay you the interest rate. So what if a company goes into bankruptcy? As we are discussing, suppose a company goes into bankruptcy, what happens is, first all its assets are liquidated. Bond holders are the people who are going to get it first compared to the shareholders. So even though the company goes into bankruptcy, bond holders are going to get it. So the debt funds are as risky as equity. No, debt funds are fixed incomes, so they are not as risky as equity. Actually, in my original PPT, I had a graphs wherein past 10 years, Nifty 50 as well as Nifty 10-year GSEC index was plotted. In the graph, it was very clear that Nifty was going up and down, but the Nifty GSEC index or the bond was going comparatively stable. So next is fixed deposit usually gives higher returns. So this is the most common myth. The reality is that on an average and over a period of time, a well-managed debt fund, they have always outperformed the fixed deposits. My original PPT was also showing various graphs, bank FDs and top gilt funds over last 1 year, 3 years and 5 years, which has outperformed the fixed deposits. So fixed deposits are seen as risk-free investments. I do agree, but investors should understand that risk-free investments usually give the lowest returns. The yield of many fixed instruments are higher, that is the debt funds, bonds and debt funds are higher when compared to the bank FD rates of a similar maturity. Suppose if you take a AAA rated corporate bond, it can easily generate very higher returns when compared to the FD interest rates. Next slide. Here I wanted to discuss about the interest rate cycle. Imagine, suppose as of now, the RBI interest rate, repo rate is 6.2%. So the interest rate cycle has to be understood to know the difference between the fixed deposits as well as the returns from the debt funds. So whenever the interest rate rises, the economy booms. There will be higher employment, increasing inflation, and increasing borrowing. This in turn leads to a weak economy. Whenever the economy becomes weak, the central bank again lowers the interest rate. So when the interest rates are lowered, more business investment starts happening. It encourages the consumer to spend more. Thereby, competitive exports and expensive imports happen, and again the interest rate rises. So these interest rate goes in a cycle. Supposing the interest rate is high now, that doesn't mean that the fixed deposit interest rate. Some of you may be having a thing like fixed deposits are giving a good returns now or at a higher interest rate. But these interest rates are not going to be fixed, and these interest rates are not going to be forever. Whenever again the economy booms and again economy becomes weak, again the interest rates will be lowered. The third myth is invest in debt funds aiming the highest returns. As we have already gone through different funds, they have different characteristics. So the main risks are interest risk and credit risk. Longer the duration of the fund, higher is its price sensitivity to the interest rate. That is the gilt funds and dynamic funds. These are highly sensitive to interest rate changes. Whereas liquid and overnight funds, as we have seen, they have very little sensitivity to change in the interest rate. Similarly, funds which invest predominantly in government and highly rated papers, they have less credit risk. They have, like the gilt funds, long duration gilt funds, they have zero credit risk. So your yields will be captured. So never invest in debt funds for highest returns. Debt funds are to preserve your profits, what you have already got to your equity funds, or it is to plan your immediate or next immediate goals, rather than keeping in a fixed deposit or a savings account to earn more interest compared to the traditional methods, but never expect the returns as equity from the debt funds. So next myth is liquid funds seek positive returns. So people think because liquid funds have low risk and low returns, they always give a positive return. It doesn't happen always. Liquid funds do give positive returns, but sometimes liquid funds can give negative returns over a certain period of time. So this has opened eyes of many investors who were unaware of the credit risk as well as the interest risk. Even though liquid funds are very low risk, they can give you a negative return. The next myth is debt funds are, most of the people think debt funds are meant for corporate and institutions. No, while the corporate and institutions, they account for the larger part of this debt fund investment, but but even the retailers can invest in the debt fund. You do not need huge sum of money to invest in debt funds. You can start with as less as 5,000 for the bond, and you can even debt mutual funds. You can start investing with even 500 rupees also. So apart from investing for your short-term, medium-term, and long-term goals, debt funds are also useful for your asset diversification, which we have already dealt with, like diversifying your portfolio. So next slide was actually Reserve Bank of India slide. So you have a RBI retail direct.org.in. This is an official RBI website wherein you can buy the bonds directly from the RBI website, and the returns are tax-free. I have in this all thing I have forgot to mention one thing: the taxability of the debt funds. Previously, debt funds had an indexation benefit wherein you had some tax benefit from the debt funds, but after the present budget, there is no indexation benefit on the debt funds. So whatever income you get from the debt funds will be added to your taxable income. The difference between the FD and debt funds is, suppose you have invested in a fixed deposit and you get 1,000 rupees per annum interest on the fixed deposit. This 1,000 rupees is going to be added every year to your taxable income and you will be taxed on that. But for the debt fund, the taxation happens only when you redeem the units. So only when you exit the fund, the taxation happens. Till then, and the taxation is similar to your taxable income. The whatever profit you got will be added to your taxable income and will be taxed according to your income tax slab. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sindhura. Wonderful coverage. Dr. Harish Gopal sir, kindly give the closing remarks.
Yes, sir. As you told now, sir, please don't invest in debt funds taking into returns. Some people in the chat box are asking me, tell me a debt fund with the highest returns. Please don't do that. The debt funds are for your goals. Okay. So let us quickly discuss the questions, sir. Do returns, first question is, do returns from debt funds beat inflation? It depends upon the, madam, will you answer? Sindhura, madam?
What was the question, sir?
Do returns from the debt funds beat inflation?
No, returns from the debt funds, even the best giving debt funds like the long duration gilt funds also. Oh, they want the question, will it beat the inflation?
Yes, ma'am.
So the return from it's not going to beat the inflation like
Sir,
the liquid
it
funds.
depends upon the debt funds, sir. Liquid funds and short duration may not beat, but long duration funds may beat by just a few things. Okay. We are not to go chase the returns, but for capital preservation and for parking our money. Second question is, can we blindly follow CRISIL ratings or should we take precautions?
We should definitely take precautions. CRISIL rating, although the CRISIL gives a rating, you have to, as we have discussed, you have to look at the average maturity, modified duration, AAA rating, and also the keep in account the interest rate, what is going in the economy and everything, and then decide upon which fund to be chosen.
So CRISIL, so in one answer, CRISIL is a private company or a outside company. Don't believe anybody. Do your own research. Just see the quality, which is more important than quantity. Okay. Do STP from debt fund to equity fund of the same fund house carry entry and exit load?
I don't know, sir.
Sir, it carries, sir, because it depends upon when you are going to do the STP. So there will be exit and entry loads for the same STP. Okay. Do PPF and SYY, Sukanya Samriddhi scheme, come under debt investment?
PPF do come.
It does. It's not actually classified under debt instrument, but you can use it as a debt instrument for long-term debt instrument for 7%. You can use it for your goal. Okay. Do STP undergo exit load charges under same fund houses? They can undergo, sir, if it's less than 1 year. It depends upon the debt fund also. So if it is liquid fund or if it is short duration or a long duration, there can be appropriate exit load charges. Then what is best for short term, 6 months with high returns, madam?
Short term, never expect high returns
For 6 months, which is best for 6 months?
Short duration.
Short duration and high returns, never expect high returns for 6 months, sir. So can we do SIP? Can we invest in SIP in debt funds? Next question.
Yes, we can invest.
But it will not give you substantial benefits like in equity because the rates will not vary much. Whether you do SIP or lump sum, it does not vary. Your returns will not vary. What is a minimum amount to invest in debt funds, madam?
If you are doing SIP, it is you can invest even 500 per month. If you are lump sum, 5,000 is the minimum investment.
Yeah, so anything you can invest, sir. It's up to you. So any other questions you can ask directly. Otherwise, madam has covered all the points beautifully. Though sorry for a technical glitch, but
Really sorry.
no problem, madam. But it was a wonderful presentation. Has anybody has doubts?
Somebody has asked maturity time in debt funds. Should we withdraw the fund within that time, or it can stay as long as I want? Maturity time. Dr. Sindhura. There is a
So
question.
each-
The
So
question
each
is, should we withdraw the fund depending upon the maturity time of the debt funds, or can we leave it like that?
See, when we are for every investment, you should have a planning of your own. You have to invest based on your goal. So never withdraw based on the maturity time or based on the interest rate or based on the market. If you have achieved your goal, then withdraw.
Anybody else wants to ask any direct question? Okay, so I don't think anybody has any doubts. So over to you, Ajay sir.
Yeah. Wonderful presentation, Dr. Sindhura, for our Pediatric Academy of Telangana PATS F3 Financial Intelligence for Pediatrician Series 2. And thank you very much for presenting this important topic, the fourth pillar of investment, as our former secretary, Dr. Pavan, has said. And I thank Dr. Harish Gopal sir for moderating the session today, and also planning the educative program for the next 2 months in a row. And I thank all the participants who have participated today in the program. And
Sir, next week it will be Mutual Funds Part 2 by Tirumala sir, Pulundu sir.
yes.
Part 2. So don't miss it.
Yeah, so coming Sunday, we will have part 2 of mutual funds, and we'll be posting again the timetable which Dr. Harish sir has made for the newcomers, and also for a reminder for the next 2 months. Thank you
And
very much.
we will start the Zoom link 20 minutes before only, sir. So to avoid all these technical glitches.
I request Dr. RSV and Dr. Pavan sir to kindly take note of this, so that we don't waste time of 4 to 5, and we'll have exclusively for the talk. Excellent talk. Thank you very much.